Welcome back to We Bought a Mic, a pop culture podcast, a motion picture podcast, cinema cast, film
I think
cast.
that's already been taken. I think both of those have already been taken.
The film cast is taken for sure.
Should we get them before we Zuckerberg them?
Right. Welcome. My name's Ernest.
I'm a fan of the year 2023 in movies. The movies, some could say. And I am Trolls Band Together himself, Hunter.
Wow.
Didn't think that was going to get heard today, did you?
Wow, it's very nice.
And I am branded content.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon content.
Mm-hmm. Drew TM.
We dialed into Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what we came up with.
We
Big shout out
mutant mayhemmed.
for the people watching on YouTube. Big shout out to my Aunt Carrie. Every year she comes up with like a really fun, like creative Christmas present for me and my sister. This year, you gotta love it.
Yeah, the visual listeners got to tune into YouTube to see this high quality print. Auntie's got to drop the link for where she got that print.
I know
those colors are spot on.
I know, and now I get to have mug beer.
Nice.
The whole pot. Also, special shout out to my girlfriend Annabelle's mom who painted me. I guess I should later. I'll walk up to the camera and like hold them up really close.
We can post.
When we start talking about a movie that you haven't seen, you can just like distract the viewers by showing them
that'll happen really soon. I promise you. She painted me these lovely little rocks with both sets of We Bought a Mic branding, one on each.
The eras. We're doing our own eras.
Insanely cool. Genuinely, everyone I've shown has been like mad jealous. Like they're like, holy shit.
We'll post a close-up shot of those beautiful painted rocks. Thank you. Shout out. All right, so what we're doing today is we're continuing Listomania, our annual tradition of the best of the year, with our favorite movies of 2023. It's always how we kick off the new year. It's 2024. We look back on the previous year. We did musical albums last week in a 2-part episode with Danny. Now we're doing movies. A little switcheroo here. We usually save movies for last, but in light of wanting a little more time to catch up on some shows that are airing their finales this week. Some of us have seen, I don't know, 2s of shows, 3s of shows. May or may not have a full list.
Listen, we could have just left it at the Curse finale is happening this week, and some other show that you mentioned is having a finale this week.
Fargo.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You still watching that?
Yeah.
Okay.
John Hamm wears a big hat.
I've
seen the
Why
clip,
didn't you say so?
the clip that you showed us of a guy with the worst golf form I've ever seen in my life. He tore every tendon in his elbow.
The brother from White Lotus.
Yeah.
Season 1.
Okay.
Also, we are going to have a special guest. So I don't want to spoil it to jinx it, but stay tuned for TV shows of 2023 next week. So before we get into the list, a few thoughts about the year in film. An incredible year for movies.
Yeah, man.
Hunter and I with the Critics Association of Central Florida, we did a lot of cramming for those awards. We shared them on the WBAM Twitter. We can, I don't know, maybe shout out some of the winners as we get through the list here.
Oppenheimer. It's all Oppenheimer.
Yeah, very Oppenheimer heavy. But that was when did we submit that? Like a week before Christmas?
Yeah, like
so
mid-December. So about a month ago, like 3-4 weeks ago.
A lot of cramming we did for those submissions. And now it's been a little less than a month, and things have kind of quieted down. I felt pretty solid about my list, about my top 10. I think for me, the majority of the year, I had a very just solid top 5. Like that just stayed there. Those were my top 5 movies. And then there were a couple late year entries that snuck up in there, made that a top 7, maybe a top 8. And then that left like 2 spots for me to really kind of play around with. And in the past couple weeks leading up to today, I've gone through a whole whirlwind of emotions of how to finalize this list and how it represents not just the year in film, but like, you know, what I like, me personally. That's
Not just me.
I wanted to reflect like what I value in my love for film. And, you know, I look forward to this episode so much the whole year. Like, this is like, I put so much thought into this. The amount of time that I've stared at the letterbox list that I'm staring at right now is like, man, if this was a full-time job, like, man, if just staring at this list could get me paid, it'd be great.
We're right on the cusp of that. You know, if we can just get the Run P guy to call a couple of his friends,
we're so close.
Just to clarify, you don't want your job to be list making. You want your job to be list viewing.
Well,
you just
no,
look at
but I have
lists
to
all day.
view the list that I make.
Oh, okay. And you never release them to the public.
Well, I'm about to
yourself.
once we're done recording this. Yeah. So yeah, those like 9 and 10 spots were the ones that I was really agonizing the most about. And I could really like, we'll get to honorable mentions at the end, but my 11 through 20 is basically another top 10. Like that's how good the year in movies was.
I agree. It's funny that you said that. I have the same thing, that I have a very, very clear top 8. And then like for me, especially, it's like 9 to 15, 16 are all kind of like jumbled up together, that depending on the day.
I feel like
we're going to have.
Are we predictable? Because I haven't even seen like most of what you guys saw, and I have an exact top 8. The thing is, I did not. I'm going to say it right now before we get any farther. I let down my two best friends in the world, not you guys.
Okay. Coops.
I let down Bradley Cooper and I let down Timmy. I did not see.
Oh, we didn't see Wonka. No.
I didn't get to see Shirley, my number one movie of the year, Wonka, and definitely maybe an honorable mention.
Well, did you
didn't see Snoopy get abandoned in the vestibule? Snoopy was abandoned. Somebody abandoned Snoopy in the vestibule.
What is he doing? Can you tell me what Hunter's doing?
Maestro, dude.
It's a Maestro.
It's a perfect Maestro impression.
Didn't see those. I also let down you, Hunter. I did not get to see May, December, and you really made like an impassioned case for it. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll catch it like at work today.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not going to do May, December like that. That wouldn't be fair to May, December.
Okay.
No.
I'm sorry.
I will say those are my top 3. I won't
Wonka's
spoil the
number
order
one,
there
right?
for the listeners.
Because there's chocolate and there's chocolate.
Well, my number 1 is Snoopy getting left in the vestibule. Not Maestro as a whole, but just that one sequence, because I have watched that scene about 27 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Drew, I think that part of the magic of this podcast is that you come in. This is what allows us to talk about, like when you had Tenet on your top 10.
Facts.
At number 10.
Like we are disgusting, like high class cinephiles, and you're a man of the people.
I can't wait for Drew to come in and be like, so my number 8 is Fallen Leaves.
Perfect days.
Saying like, It's like I've only been watching the Eastern European cinema this year.
I feel so bad because my whole top 10's in Korean. Yeah. So I don't, there's not representation for anyone else here.
You had Barbarian on your list last year. Like
honestly, that aged great. Barbarian fucking rules.
I have my number 10 this year is going to age great too. Like, spoiler alert. I don't know how you want to start this off, but
should
I do the wheel?
Yeah, it's fast.
Yeah. No, I agree with you though, Ernie. It's funny. I was like trying to look at my list and see my 11 through 20. Is that a better top 10 than either of the last 2 years?
Right.
And I think that it might be. If not, it's really close to like 2020 or 2021, because it's a great year. It's easily the best year since 2019. Yeah.
All right. So, as a reminder, the way we do this is we go 10 through 1. And if there's overlap, we save it for the person that has picked it the highest on the list. We don't know anyone's picks. It's a big surprise, a lot of anticipation. All right. Spinning the wheel to see who goes first. And going first is Drew.
What do you know?
Number 10. Start us off, buddy.
A lot of good movies. Some that I feel like will be mentioned on both of your lists, but for number 10, I wanted to be true to myself and what I truly enjoyed watching this year. So my number 10 is Bottoms.
Drew, that's my number 11.
Wow.
It literally is just right on the outside of my list.
Yeah, so
Almost put it on there.
Bottoms is a really, really, really awesome movie. It's a great throwback comedy that also could like only be made like this year. You know what I mean? Because gay. We just found out. The masses at large have just found out that you can now do that in a movie. The movie fucking rocks. It's Rachel Sennett or Seno. We don't know. We can't tell.
I think it's Senate.
I think it's
This is the follow-up to Shiva Baby.
Yeah,
it's
which was
directed-
also
Seligman.
also directed by Emma Seligman, who's partners, I guess, creative partners with Rachel.
They're all like NYU girlies.
Literally, yes. I followed Rachel on Twitter like 5 years ago. And she was just another like sort of like alt comedy person on Twitter, along with fucking Io, by the way, who's like had like the biggest year in history. Like,
Our Irish queen, Io Debris, out here.
what a year for Io. She co-stars in this. She wins the fucking Globes
For the bear.
for the
The
Bear. She's in like Spider-Verse. Like she's absolutely cooking. Great year for her. Her and Rachel are an awesome starring duo in this movie. This movie is, I think this is like the girl Superbad that
Yes. very much.
that Booksmart kind of wanted to be.
They just want to get laid.
Booksmart was too try hard. We have to retrospectively admit.
It's
Yeah.
very I'm with her.
It was so Hillary pilled. This movie is so socialist.
Booksmart still has some incredible moments to it. I think that
I still love
the
that
like
movie.
tripping sequence is so awful that it like almost brings down the entire movie by like a full star, in my opinion. But that movie also did introduce the world of Skylar Gisondo, so we can't talk too much shit about Booksmart.
So it's a really interesting dichotomy because I watched this movie like a day after watching the Please Don't Destroy movie, which I was a lot more hyped up for.
Escape from Foggy
Yeah.
Mountain?
Escape from Foggy Mountain or Journey to Who knows? We can't know.
Who's
We
to
don't know
say?
these things. These things are mysteries. That movie was a huge
The
disappointment. to me.
treasure of Foggy Mountain.
That movie really,
Wow.
really bummed me out. We were big on Please Don't Destroy in
TikTok.
in 2020 when they were making
Pre-SNL, yeah.
they were making 1 minute videos on posting to Twitter and TikTok. No one knew like who they were or like who their dads were. Minus Ben. Ben's got no nepo in him. He's also really the worst part of that movie, to be honest.
Oof.
That's a bummer.
Did you haven't seen it?
No, I
So
have not.
that
I
was-
hovered
I was
over
so-
the play button for a long time.
I was really excited for it, and then I heard
Guys.
nothing but negative. I knew it was just gonna bum me out because I love those guys so much.
That's the thing, and I truly think that these are funny guys. I think that they have bright careers ahead of them, and there are plenty of funny moments in this movie. The movie is a huge fucking flop. When as you're watching it, you're like, this isn't a movie. Get fucking real, you guys. Like you guys need to get a little bit serious here. Not like tonally. But you know what I mean? Like you can have a goofy, funny movie.
Production-wise,
Bottoms is fucking
yeah.
hilarious and like so out there and slapstick. But this movie is so stupid. Please Don't Destroy movie stinks. And if anyone were to like it, it would be us three. They're like almost the exact same age as us three. They have all the same cultural reference points. It all should have worked. And I don't want to point fingers, but I absolutely do want to point fingers. I think a lot of it falls on the guy who directed the Please Don't Destroy movie.
He made it.
Paul Berganti, he has only really directed, pre-taped SNL stuff for like years and years and years. He's done some really good
I
stuff.
will say, like, even in SNL, we don't ever really talk about SNL at all, like in the culture anymore. But SNL is actually having like a pretty good year this
I
year,
know.
like a quietly
Oh.
good year.
SNL is really on the rebound, and it's just the fact that this was clearly made by someone who is not a movie director. And I'm sorry to the guy. This movie felt like a skit. It just didn't feel fleshed out. Things move way too fast. Everything is undercut by a joke. Things don't tie into each other the way you want them to. It just doesn't feel like a movie. It looks like shit. The effects suck. The coloring stinks in every shot. Like it's really distracting.
And then when you compare that to Bottoms, which the look of Bottoms is incredible.
That's the thing. Bottoms looks fucking sick.
It's
it has such a
this
beauty. Like
candy colored, pop of color than in almost every scene.
yeah, and every performance is like pitch perfect. Like it's a ton of like even the way that they choose to portray the football team as like basically a bunch of gay guys.
They're wearing the pads the whole movie.
Like
they're always in
It's
their
so
uniform.
stylized in a way that's so cool. Marshawn Lynch legitimately was almost on my ballot for the best supporting performances I've seen in a movie this year.
Marshawn Lynch
so
is
fucking good in this movie.
Worth looking up. So Marshawn Lynch, for those of you who don't know, one of the best running backs of all time, has probably the best highlight runs of all time. It's worth looking up if you like him in this movie. He did like an ESPN like pre-tape weird little segment with Kenny Mayne back when he played for Buffalo like 15 years ago. Do you remember this? It was just like, it was basically a sketch where like Kenny Mayne, who was like a reporter, but he was funny. He went and just like followed Marshawn around Buffalo. And like they basically acted like Marshawn was just like absolutely loved how boring Buffalo was. Like he was just getting lit at like Applebee's and stuff. And it was like, oh, this guy, like he could be in like Chappelle's show. Like he's really funny. He has a great delivery. I love seeing him in it. I loved every performance. I think the movie does have a lot of heart, even though everything is undercut by jokes, which is hard to do.
It's so silly.
Yeah, like it's so
that
out there.
final set piece, people are getting stabbed.
Yeah, it becomes. I mean, the whole movie is like what you'd call camp, and in particular, like it does take from like the lineage of like gay cinema and like all the like old like gay teen movies, which all a lot of them are in like the sort of slashy horror type genre, that ends with insanity like that.
It's super fun.
It's so fun. Rachel and Io are both like, they're both stars. They're ready to go. Like, unleash them.
The extended cast too. All the other girls, I found it all very believable.
Yeah, Ruby Cruz is great.
Yeah,
Havana Rose Liu.
Yeah, I had never seen her before, and
No,
she's
me
like
either.
she's like doing like a lot of like actual acting. Like she's doing like legit acting.
Yeah, great balancing of like people that you'd believe are actual high school students with characters that are obviously in just the silliest, like most unrealistic scenario you could possibly imagine, and they all exist in the same reality.
But it balances the tones in a really fun way because it's so out there and it's so stylized that like you kind of don't become like hypercritical of stuff, and without spoiling the movie, it comes back to like a lie at the very beginning of the movie that's told in like very classical, like John Hughes almost style storytelling. Yeah, it's so familiar.
Yeah, like it's like a movie. Yeah, it has like the false pretense love, the situation.
Just wanting to belong, wanting to fit in. With
exactly.
the crew.
But on top of that, it's like insanity, and it
we should say for people because we talked about the movie and not actually described what it's about. The basic premise of the movie is that Io and Rachel Sennett start a fight club in order to pick up two girls that they like.
Yeah,
and
that's the movie.
What a pitch of a movie it is. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
I actually think the stunt coordination is fantastic, especially in that third act, but really throughout the entire movie. If you just like look in the background frame of them like walking through the hallways, it's just like insanity happening around them at any given time.
Also,
it's so much fun.
Shout out Charlie XCX.
Yeah,
with the score.
Awesome score. Yeah, really awesome. Score.
Mother slayed and left no crumbs. I also, in particular, the two lead football player actors. They're basically like, I saw people online, extremely online people on Twitter who were like, it's funny that this movie's like gay representation, but it's still like gay coding its villains or some shit like that. And it's like, could you have some fun for a second?
No one's a villain.
This main football guy, Nicholas Galitzine, is so funny.
He was in a like Amazon Prime gay movie this year.
The
red, white, and royal blue.
Oh yeah.
What a fake movie that was. But yeah, no.
This is a great pick, Drew. This movie is outside my top 20, but
I really do, and I do want to. I'm backdooring the please don't destroy conversation in this because I need to vent about it a little bit.
Go for it.
Because
dishonorable mention.
Meg Stalter is in it, who I absolutely love. Like she's in Hacks. You know who she is, right? Ernie,
let me see the face.
She's the assistant. She's another person. She got famous on Twitter from like front facing videos.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love Meg Stalter. She's probably the best person in the whole movie, and she's just sort of like a love interest. The movie chooses to be about John, which is like the third guy in Please Don't Destroy. Ben is he's given like a protagonist arc, but then he's just off to the side the whole time. Martin, very funny. I think Martin's legit,
the best one.
He legit is. He's a naturally hilarious guy. Like
didn't he get to make out with Emma Stone?
Facts.
At, SNL.
I think so. Good on him. And yeah, I think he does a job where like he's getting laughs out of lines that are like iffy because he is funny. He has a funny voice. Great delivery. So I'd say like maybe 2/3 into the whole Foggy Mountain thing just doesn't need to be there. Like, why do they have to go to this mountain to get it's all completely pointless. They get it really easily. It sound drops so many times. They like sound drop crank that. And again,
Soldier Boy.
Yeah. And so if anyone were to enjoy that, like it would be me. And it never once did it feel
didn't hit.
In Bottoms, when Complicated by Avril Lavigne comes in.
Man, what a needle drop.
And it's because like, in addition to having like fun nostalgia song, like it like is hitting really hard in that moment in the movie. Like it actually makes sense.
I'm writing that in for the WBAMs right now
for
before
the
I
best
forget.
needle drop.
Please do.
Yeah.
One more thing about
I didn't have it in there.
in the Please Don't Destroy. They bring in Bo and Yang in this really interesting like outdoor like cult setting for like the last third of the movie, and it's like, just make that. Why did you go to Foggy Mountain? Like you have Bo and Yang. He's funnier than all of you. Like let him cook. He was really good in this crazy, strange setting with like cool set decoration. It was the only cool looking thing in the whole movie. Conan's also funny in the movie. Conan is in it a pretty good deal.
I mean, once again, the only like great SNL produced movie that they have made that's just like with their stars while they are actively in SNL of the last like 20 years is Popstar. And I don't think that anything has ever really.
Well, they weren't. I don't even know if they were still there.
I wouldn't even call that SNL.
They made Hot Rod like their second year at SNL.
Hot Rod, I guess.
The thing is, they didn't even write Hot Rod. They like punched it up like that. Like, for example, the weird Cool Beans thing where it breaks into a song, that wouldn't be in any other. Like, that's not in the script. But like, that's also why that movie doesn't feel like Lonely Island necessarily,
right?
Because it's like they just kind of took a script and got it. These guys wrote this movie. It bummed me out. If you don't have money for good effects, then don't do a gag that's based on an effect.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That trailer looked rough.
It happens a lot in the movie.
You have to at least like, you have to do it in a way that's fun. Like I think there's another movie, it won't be mentioned on this list, but a movie that I really, really loved this year that came out was the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Great movie.
And that movie does not have the budget of a Marvel movie and almost like pokes fun actively at itself for not having the budget, with like the dragon just being like a morbidly obese dragon flying around, fucking the video that's going around of Chris Pine's face like melting as he's playing the lute.
That looked great.
It looks good, but like also it's something that's a cheaper type of animation to make. But again, it's all about who's helming it. Like Dungeons and Dragons, it's made by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, the guys who made Game Night.
Yeah,
so it's all about who you have at the helm.
It just shocked me that these guys they're definitely talented, but they're so green, and you're pairing them up with a director who hasn't directed a movie.
They just had to fill space on Peacock.
You have
That's all it was.
Like they needed to be given a director to have a fighting chance with this fucking thing. Yeah. And so it bummed me out. And then I watched Bottoms and I was like, oh, movies.
That's how you do it.
Movies can be, comedies can live still. You know what I mean?
We do it.
Bottoms is a great comedy. I love it. It's my number 10.
Yeah.
So what? That was like 25 minutes to talk about one movie on number 10. So I think we're going to break this up into 2 parts.
10 episodes.
My number 10, I feel like we're going to have to wait on. My number 10 is Barbie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to have to wait on it.
Yeah.
On my list.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait on it.
All right. My number 10, you guys. Like I said.
Oh, no. He's going to dial into Destiny, isn't he?
I had a whole journey here to arrive at this moment. And I had a moment of meditation. I had to look inward into my soul and think about what I wanted my list to say about this year in film.
Knock at the Cabin.
My number 10 is Maestro. Bradley Cooper's Leonard Bernstein biopic.
Is this a reaction to the reaction?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
This is a great movie, and it does not deserve what is happening to this poor man. It's okay to want things. What's the crime in wanting to be great, to be loved, to be adored, to put art into the world and want people to connect to it and to respond to it?
I don't think that that's what people's criticisms are of this movie.
No, I'm saying that it is though.
Some people are
said
calling it way too sweaty of like an Oscar movie.
to try hard. That has been a common theme.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
That they can feel that he is trying too hard. And he is. And that's what makes this movie great. He is trying so hard. I have never seen someone try so hard. And there are I may not agree or understand every choice that is made in this movie. And there are a lot of choices made in this movie. But I felt something deep in my soul while watching this movie. And I had to rewatch it to confirm it, because I did watch it like a couple days before my wedding. And I was definitely thinking part of the time in the theater, like, should I really be here or should I be planning my wedding? And
Lee was actively just getting everything ready, final steps, and you're like, I gotta go see Maestro.
I gotta see Maestro. So I gave it the rewatch leading up to this episode this week, and there's a scene in this movie where I mentioned it last time I talked about it, where he conducts the orchestra. Everyone has given shit about how he practiced for 6 months. So those people are stupid. Like that, I don't listen to that type of criticism about this movie.
Or
6 years, whatever. I don't care. He didn't have to practice at all. It's acting. The way the scene is constructed and the feelings leading up to everything leading up to that moment and the climax that happens in that moment, it brought me to tears again. Hey. And
I'm loving this.
I knew what was going to happen. I knew the exact moment. I knew all the beats, and it still got me. It arguably got me even more the second time. And yes, there are things about this movie that fall through your fingers. This is a very mercurial movie where you're watching a movie, you want a lot of times watching a movie is like you're putting your trust in someone and you're grabbing onto a rope in a dark corridor, and you're hoping that the rope will lead you out of the darkness of the corridor all the way through. This is a movie that the rope sometimes disintegrates. Sometimes it turns to liquid in your fingers and you don't know what to make of it. And every time you grab another piece of rope, you think you're okay, and it just falls apart. And I don't think that means that this movie is bad. I think it means that it's artistic. I think, to me, this is a movie that doesn't want to conform to just one thing and doesn't want to fit into just one box. And I think that that's the kind of art that Leonard Bernstein made. If I don't know if I know enough about Leonard Bernstein's career after making this movie and his accomplishments, it doesn't do a good job of kind of giving you the overview of what he did, but it gives you a sense of who he was and how he connected with the people around him in his life and how he saw the world. And I think that this is going to be wrestled over for a long time as to whether or not this is a good movie, whether or not Bradley Cooper should be making movies like this, or if he should change his career and try to make other kinds of movies that aren't this kind of just like biopic-y, like serious, very like sentimental, earnest type of filmmaking, or just kind of loosen up and just go crazy, which I would love to see. But in doing this, in following up something like A Star Is Born with something so different, I just can't help but love it. It's not just one thing. It's complicated. And yes, it's messy. Yes, I can poke holes in it. It's not perfect, but I'm much more interested in messy art that is trying to say something, that is trying to do something different. So, Maestro.
I think that's really elegantly put, the way that you kind of broke that down there. I see the thing about Maestro, and maybe I should see this movie again, especially before Oscar time, because it's gonna be nominated for a bunch of things. I found this, and I said this at the time whenever I saw it, I think this is a movie with like several 10 out of 10 perfection scenes. Like, it is a movie of scenes, and when those scenes come, it's like strap in for the next 7 minutes because you are going to be on a fucking ride right now while you were watching this. The scene that you referenced at the beginning of him the
cathedral.
Yeah, and the cathedral. That is truly one of the best scenes of the year. Like, it is unbelievable what he is doing with his body. And sure, you can watch the side-by-side video and see that he like is mimicking Leonard Bernstein, like exactly facial expression by facial expression. And that's impressive and all, but I think that it more so the effect of it is that it feels so real. It feels so lived in. It's one of those like funny things about acting that the more that you rehearse something, the more natural it becomes. And there is a lot of that throughout this. I think that Bradley Cooper, I think it's him and Damien Chazelle as the two best filmmakers alive at filming Hollywood, at filming like a certain type of like old-timey Hollywood and the way that it feels and this sense of adventure and wonder. I mean, talking about another scene, there's a I always want to say that it's Anything Goes, but the cruise ship
the
dance sequence, interpretive dance that's happening where basically it's like a metaphor of Leonard Bernstein coming out as a gay man through dance.
I love it.
Absolutely beautiful. I just think that there is a lot of connective tissue in this movie that just does not work as well. I said it at the time, Carey Mulligan does not work for me in this movie at all. I truly I have a broader issue behind the framing device of this movie, of it being about Leonard Bernstein, and maybe the true Maestro is actually Felicia all along. Okay, sure, I guess. The problem with that framing device is that I think Felicia has one scene in the movie where she isn't alongside Leonard Bernstein. So you can't make a movie that's truly about both of them, where we're supposed to come out the other side and think like she was the true hero the whole time if we don't spend enough time with her. I don't know where the balancing act is, because also I don't care for Carey Mulligan's performance either in this. I think that she's like she's a half beat away from being a fucking BoJack Horseman character. Like, she's literally just like, here's the thing about old Hollywood. I was once an actor.
Lenny. I mean, kind of everyone in this movie is like that.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that's because the wider cast doesn't really work for me outside of Sarah Silverman either. I think Sarah Silverman's actually really, really good in this movie. And there's a great scene with Maya Hawke in there. But again, it's a movie of scenes. And it just overall left me pretty unsatisfied.
No, that's fair.
And I won't say that's bad. I think that if you say that's bad, if you say that's try hard, I don't think that's not the criticism at all that I'm levying against it. I'm levying against it that it's just not a complete film.
I just saw a lot of people like really turn on this movie since it dropped on Netflix, and I wanted to ride for it.
Ernest, I appreciate it so much. That was the most impassioned, like beautifully put case ever made for a number 10.
I know. You started to lose a bit because you're like, it is going to lose you as you're watching it, and you're like, this is artistic. I kind of lost to not having a good time right now, but I'm hoping that it will see me through.
Yeah,
some great moments.
That's what art is.
Don't really care for the ending is another thing about this movie.
Oh, I love the ending.
The ending left me cold, and maybe that part of that is the point.
Shout, let it all out.
Well, that's listen. I'm not going to be mad about Tears for Fears.
I will say, probably the best old age makeup I've ever seen in my life. And also, Bradley Cooper is incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
Like he was my number one ballot pick for the critics group, because like
for director or for actor?
For actor, because imagine losing to Rami Malek.
Jesus Christ.
For Bohemian. Imagine what that does to you. He could have either thrown in the towel or done this.
He was the best actor that year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Him and his the problem is that like that movie was like Lady Gaga's, moment, like her movie. That performance was one of the best I've ever seen.
He's fucking amazing in that
He's
movie.
out of this world.
Yeah. And so he comes in high here and he's showing people like, this is how you do it. You don't just put in fucking teeth in and lip sync. This is how you fucking do it. So
Facts.
You're allowed to have your own opinion. If you don't like it, that's okay. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I just wanted to come in with the defense because I believe this deserves it, because I think it's gonna underperform and it's not gonna win anything, and I'm gonna have to keep seeing shots of our boy losing all awards season, and it's gonna be heartbreaking. And he is going to become the Joker. This is how it starts. So I'm with you, Brad. I'm with you till the end. All right.
Do you think that he wants to win a Oscar for acting or directing more?
Directing, definitely.
Did you see the interview that he had where somebody asked him, I think it was Howard Stern, like right whenever this movie came out, he's just like, would you rather Maestro win Best Picture, you win Best Actor and Best Director, or the Eagles win a Super Bowl this year? And like without blinking, he's just like Eagles Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
That's our boy.
That's like, you know, in 2K when you're being asked questions by the press and there's one that increases and one that decreases your reputation. Yeah. You gotta answer Eagles.
No, I know. The answer is obviously like, but it was how fast he said it. It was just like at the moment they said
No
Eagles
hesitation.
Super Bowl, he was like, I forgot what you said. The first one was that Eagles Super Bowl. Divorce? Yeah, no, it's fine.
Big ass fan.
All right, number 9.
My number 9 is BlackBerry.
Ooh,
Let's go. I'm so
that's
glad this made a list.
We do here.
I really loved BlackBerry. I think it's like a very blatantly like flawed movie. Like it's there's like a big gap between it and the rest of my list. Basically,
I love this. This is my top 15.
no, that's the thing is I love it. It's just like I don't want to make it out to be like a perfect, you know, feat of cinema. It's just a really fun watch.
It's
like
riveting.
Yeah, it's got pace, it's got performance. Like it is.
It's a very it's like a throwback to adult dramas that they just don't make anymore.
It is in a way, but then also, you know, Matt Johnson shot it like the shakiest you've ever seen something shot. He shot it like fucking Cloverfield.
He shot it like
It's like a documentary.
like the pilot of Succession.
Yeah, like just exactly, like wildly shaky to a point that it becomes like a focal point like of the movie. Like as you're watching, you're like, whoa, this is like so documentary, and it's really enjoyable because of that. Because
it draws you in.
Well, and it makes our 3 main guys funnier because like if putting these guys in like a shot that is so grounded in reality by being so like handheld, you know, as opposed to like putting them in a movie, it's like these are such movie characters. Like Glenn is going so hard and absolutely phenomenal. Like I loved every second of watching him. I watched this I think in December, heard plenty about the Glenn performance. Lives up to, you know, it fit the bill. Like it lives up to everything everyone was saying.
Ferocious.
Great. It's a great use of Glenn, who has, I've been on the Dennis is the best part of Sunny train since like 2K12. Listen, he's a fucking actor.
Yeah.
Like he's real as fuck. Jay, weirdly really enjoyed him in this, like more than I think I ever have. It's hard to enjoy Jay usually.
What are you trying to say?
I was talking to a friend of the pod,
He's
Brett,
still trying to learn how to train his dragon.
about this movie, and he had a big problem with Jay.
Oh, I can see that because Jay is like he's not a great actor.
But it kind of fits the character. Like I can see the choice. It makes sense. You know, this guy who's easily manipulated and just constantly outside a step of where you need to be in this industry.
And Canadian.
Ooh, crucial.
Big up. It ended up working for me. Like seeing him in that like goofy ass
wig.
Great. Well, when the real
Insane
problem,
wigs.
the problem is when the wig changes. When it cuts to the future and
Dude,
it's like
the
slicks
third
back.
act wig is insane.
Yeah,
it's one of the
it's
worst
awful.
wigs I've ever seen.
It's really awful. There are certain things like that where it's like, well, that's inexcusable. I just really, really admire Matt Johnson for the way he approached the movie. Like there was nothing that was calling for this movie to be shot this aggressively in his
and
style.
for everything to fit so tightly together. Like my thing with this movie is that everything just locks into place. Like the acting, the writing, the directing, the music, the cinematography, like everything fell in lockstep.
And a lot of it is that you're getting like real heavy hitters coming in. Like this isn't an amateur movie. Like you're being led by Glenn, who's just absolutely cooking. Matt is really funny in his part. By the end, I was a little bit sick of him. I was like, you're funny. Ha ha ha. You know,
he has one note that he hits.
Yeah. But then you know, fucking Michael Ironside's coming in.
Yeah.
Carrie
Elways.
Who like the last couple years has really changed my opinion of him, because I really wasn't a huge fan, and he is awesome in this and in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Saul Rubinek pops in. Like you're getting some dudes. Like this is, you know, it has like some guys that I'm sure like Matt Johnson, as just like a film like dork, is just like, oh my God, we can get Michael Ironside. Holy shit.
And he's going to yell at people.
Yeah.
And that's what you want Michael Ironside for.
And on top of all that, I think this movie needed to make one of our lists because it has such a lineage to *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Yes.
Yeah, it really does. You're right. This is full circle. Year 6.
It's
Year
crossing
7.
eras. It's about a couple of just losers.
They're
just
not
lose.
quite there.
Yeah.
And it's even though it starts in the 90s, it mostly because of Matt Johnson, it's so 80s.
Yeah.
Like the way he's dressing, you know, and with the headband and the short shorts.
Yeah, not as sexy as Scoot.
He's so 80s. Everything he's listening to is wildly 80s. It's a lovely time. I enjoyed watching front to back. You could recommend to just about anybody.
That's what I was gonna say, is like this has such a wide appeal. I think that's what I mean whenever I say it's just a very old school movie that you can just throw this on for anybody. Like I could have thrown this on for my family over Christmas, and I feel like they would have loved this.
And
Glenn Howerton is like, I think this is the only time that we've ever seen somebody, I think even including Charlie Day in this, where somebody is like figured out like, yes, that's what makes this guy special as an actor, that we can tap into that in this role.
Yeah.
And they fucking nailed it with him.
Yeah.
He's my favorite supporting performance in a movie this year.
Yeah, he really like chews up the fucking scenery in the movie. It rocks. There's plenty, you know, there are plenty of like little things here and there where you're like, like you said, like things that like lose your immersion, like the fucking wig situation. Truly like upsetting.
It's so bad that it's almost like they know they're leaning into it.
Yeah,
that's the impression that they gave
And honestly, a bigger problem like at large is like, in the beginning, you can sort of buy that Jay is like, oh, maybe he just looks a little younger than he is. But at the end of the movie, he still looks young. Yeah. Like that, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
When we were talking about the old person makeup in Maestro compared to this, it's a different ball game.
You know, sort of just the way that they, like, you can feel them sticking to a simplified version of reality, like later in the script, where it's like this, you know, this could go in a more interesting direction, but they're not allowed to. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to fully change reality.
Right.
That said, the reality of what happened is plenty interesting enough. I love that this like brings to light, like, and makes a major plot point out of the idea that the way Apple took over is by switching what they're taking from you from data. You know what I mean?
Yeah. From minutes to data.
Yeah, from
minutes there's only a finite.
Exactly.
There's a finite amount of minutes, but there's unlimited data.
Yeah, and watching it, I was watching it with my dad, and I felt like a genius because the whole time, like watching it, like Jay is like, well, that thing's gonna eat up data like crazy, and I was like, yeah, that's the point, Jay.
Yeah.
That's the fucking point.
Yeah.
So it's fun to watch on that front because we are all, you know, living in a post, even whatever we know about BlackBerry, we know about what happened with smartphones.
Yeah.
You guys remember when kids had BlackBerry Messenger at school?
Oh,
there were
dude,
like 5 kids.
Friend of the pod, Colin, had a BlackBerry, and I was so jealous.
God, of course.
Because it was
Colin
like,
was
man,
the coolest
it was
kid.
unlimited fucking text. Are you kidding me? You can do
get
that?
BBM?
I was like, God, I have to download Talk Now on my iPod Touch.
I think they did a pretty solid job of like doing like the English please, you know, and then having someone be like, basically, there's a lot of internet just sitting out there,
that
and this thing can pull it in.
That happens like 5 or 6 times in the movie, that exact thing. But honestly, I didn't mind because it's well written, the way that it is explained smartly and then dumbed down.
And literally, in order for them to sell the BlackBerry, they had to do that.
Yeah.
They did have to simplify like what the product was.
Yeah. When they go in the room with Verizon to sell it to those execs.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it was like a novel idea to imagine a world where like something can use
Also,
the internet.
Shout out to hockey.
Yeah, dude, I'm from Waterloo, where the vampires live.
Dude did not want to run a company.
Dude, it's so, that whole story is so, because I like, after seeing the movie, I went home and like looked up everything that's in there. And it's one of those things where it's like almost even more insane of just like, he really thought that he could just like hijack a whole team and steal them from America without anybody like noticing.
Yeah.
It's insane. I was going to say one last thing on BlackBerry. I was talking with friend of the pod, Joey, a couple days ago after...
Isn't that his movie, this movie of the year?
It's one of his top movies of the year. And one thing that he was saying about that I never really put together until talking with him, we were talking about our favorite movies of the year, is viewing this movie as a metaphor for filmmaking. And about like cutting corners and compromising.
The creative, the
and
producer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and whenever you kind of view it that way, it now made me really want to go home and rewatch this movie under that lens, because that makes so much sense, especially in the day and age of like, everything is about like, okay, but like, what is the bottom line on this, especially as movies get more and more and more expensive
and the Zaslavs of the world coming in and just not understanding
Jay is the... the writer.
Right. He's James Gunn.
Glenn is sort of the producer.
Zaslav.
Well, kind of, but he's not quite the Zaslav, because at a certain point he is getting ticked. You know what I mean? Like he's getting overruled.
Right.
It's a great point, basically.
And then Matt is Jason Momoa. BlackBerry is Drew's number 9. Might submit it for a couple Wabammies.
Yeah.
Great movie. Hunter, number 9.
Well, we're gonna have to wait on another one on my list, because my number 9 is Oppenheimer.
Oh, you paired them.
Yeah.
Oppie.
Look at me. I know.
Oppenhizzle.
I almost cheated and said like my number 10 is Barbenheimer, but then I didn't want to be a fucking asshole, because I don't cheat on lists.
I just know that your list is gonna be so annoying.
I know this is gonna be like number 7 is Godfather Part 2. I just saw it for the first time this year.
All right, so like I said before, my number 9 and my number 10 had a lot of thought, a whole journey to get here.
So
and I'm curious. I think we're gonna have to wait for this. I'm looking at you, Drew. Bo is afraid.
This is one that I'm sad I did not rewatch before this. I did not have time for a rewatch, and otherwise I feel like it could have been in the top 10.
I didn't either, but we'll get into it.
You guys don't even like movies.
Listen,
all right.
I love cinema.
Number 8. Drew.
My number 8's Past Lives.
Save that one.
You're gonna have to save that one. Gonna have to save it. Hunter.
Okay.
Number 8.
Now that we've gone around the circle here, I don't know, Drew. I'm pretty sure you have not seen this. I don't know if I have to wait anymore, but my number 8 is The Zone of Interest by Jonathan Glazer.
This one was one of the ones I had to cut out. It was tough.
Okay,
I had it on sort of in the background, and I ignored it.
Jesus Christ.
You just wanted to live your idyllic life.
I had like family stuff going on.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with my
You're
dad.
like just like nursing, and you're like, God, this is so annoying. These sounds of gunshots in the background. The sound of like people screaming, women and children.
For the longest time, I had this on my list, and it's still in my top 15, but I think from a personal level,
you want all the facts on whether or not that stuff happened, right?
Yeah. You're like, well, I wasn't there. So how do we know?
I think this movie is incredible. I think this is one of the few examples that you can point to of a movie reaching a certain level of attention, because I think movies like this come out all the time that are difficult, but I don't think a lot of movies come out that have this much kind of push behind them to get it in front of as many eyeballs as this one is. I guess it's high. I don't know the budget on this one, but it feels like it has a high enough budget that is truly cinema as art, as difficult art, as complicated art that is not easy to digest. It's not cinema as entertainment at all.
In a way, it almost feels like 8 is like insultingly low for a movie like this. If I was making a movie of just like the objective best movies of the year, it'd be really hard not to have this in the top 3 or 4 of the year, because I think that this is one of those, I hate to use this term whenever talking about movies, but like one of the most important movies that you'll ever see in your life. Like, I think that this is a movie, for those of you who don't know, this movie is a family drama about a dad who gets told that he has to move to a new town to start a new job. Only the thing is, his family lives literally outside the walls of Auschwitz.
He is the commander.
Yes,
of Auschwitz.
The commander of Auschwitz, played by Christian Friedel, who plays Rudolf Hals. It really is kind of a movie that happens at you. It's never going to explore the trauma that you're seeing. Like, it's funny thinking about this movie in comparison to something like, even something that has true artistic merit and something that's Academy Award winning, like Schindler's List. This movie almost isn't going to give you the satisfaction of being able to see the brutality. Instead, it's just happening in the background the entire time. I think that this is, I was just trying to look up everyone who is working on the sound design, but I think this might be like the best sound design, the best sound I've ever heard in a movie in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I know for a fact this won't win the Oscar, and that's such a travesty because, my God, is the sound in this movie so perfect. If you haven't seen this movie, especially if you're a fan of film, I think that this is about as much of a must watch as there possibly is, just to see what Jonathan Glazer is doing here. I to be honest, I'm a big Glazer fan. I was a huge fan of Under the Skin. It came out 10 years prior to this, and this is drastically different, although it's also a horror movie in many ways. It's just all very intended. Under the Skin, the horror that's happening in this movie.
When we saw Under the Skin, like, because it was, you said it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we saw it like that year when it came out. Ernie put it on, and like my little brain was just like not ready to absorb like art like that yet.
Right.
I was like, this is nonsense.
That one stuck.
It's so
no,
good.
I mean,
I've never rewatched that movie, and I still think about
it's grown in my
so
estimation
good.
like a lot. But like back then, I was like, can we put on like
anything else?
There's like a football game on.
Whiplash again?
The Office, please.
No, Under the Skin, I actually watch that movie every few years. It's in my top few horror movies of the 2010s. Really love that movie. And this is something that's so wildly different that makes me want to go back and see some of Glazer's earlier work
Sexy
that he's
Bees.
done. Yeah. I think that the performances in this are pretty phenomenal. I don't know if we're going to see Sandra Hüller in another movie that she was in that might pop up on a list or two. I'm not sure. But she was also the star of Anatomy of a Fall, which is another big Oscar player this year. Truly like one of the great international breakout stars, and is having a fantastic year coming onto the scene here. The German actress, Sandra Hüller. It is chilling. The way that you just kind of see the flippantness that they kind of just deal with everything, from just like somebody dumping a bag of clothes that were ripped off.
Trying on the fur coats.
Yeah, trying on fur coats that were ripped away from Jewish people before they were put in there.
Devastating.
The way that they're talking with, shout out to friend of the pod, Danny, a Siemens representative about the most efficient way to build the gas chambers. Yeah. Shout out to Orlando's own.
Got to get those KPIs up.
Yeah. About like, oh man, so this side will cool as we load in more.
How many can
so
we
that
kill
we can
per
burn
day?
the others over here on this side, and it's a constantly revolving thing of murder.
700 per day? Oh, they're gonna love that.
The nighttime sequences that happen here.
When grandma comes to visit.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
And it starts the sound. That's when the sound really starts to creep up a little bit. This movie never crosses the threshold. You're never in Auschwitz, but there are moments where you start to the death becomes more prevalent.
Yes.
Much more visible and hard to ignore, because the whole point of this story is that they're essentially ignoring it.
Yeah.
And there are moments where there are certain characters where it's like, what it's right there.
Yeah, you can hear gunshots happening, and that's why the introduction of the grandma character to the story is so perfect, because she hasn't just become completely complacent to everything that's
she
happening.
notices
She
it
notices
in
that,
a way.
oh,
yeah.
I'm just hearing like gunfires and screaming happening at all times, and it's seeing the gas chambers go up in the night and seeing the plumes of smoke billowing
the red
out.
glow.
The red glow of everything. It's so chilling. There's a sequence, or I guess it's two different sequences in this movie where Jonathan Glazer makes like the artistic choice to shoot in this like negative.
Yeah.
It's something I've never
In
really
like
seen.
inverted. Yeah.
I've never really seen in a movie before. It almost is just like in like a video game where you can like I've been playing
Like night
Spider-Man, and
vision
it's
or
almost like,
something.
you like put a special filter on your camera or
Yeah.
something like that. Like it's unlike anything I've ever seen. And especially after seeing this movie a second time, I think a lot about those sequences.
Nice.
This is just a movie that just sat with me, and it's grown in my estimation like as the days go by.
When we talked about it last night, I compared it to, that idea of us being the bad guys of do we know if we're evil? I compared it to us turning a blind eye to like environmental issues and
climate change and
ecological
stuff.
devastation, things like that. I also think that this movie's very prevalent to the genocide that's happening in Gaza right now, and the whole war in the Middle East, and the idea that like America is not the hero of the story, and the idea that we live here and we benefit from imperialism, and all we can do is just live.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in this movie, is these people benefit from this death and destruction, and all they're doing is living. So I think what this movie does is it makes you question, like, how do you know what evil is? How do you know who is evil and who is not? And are you perpetuating it? Are you benefiting from the evil?
I think that a lot of it is that I think that really what Glazer is trying to say at the end of the day is that complacency is the real villainy, is that complacency is truly just as bad as, like, if you just try and just fully know that the problem is there and just throw a sheet over it, plant some fucking daisies in the yard and ignore what's happening around you.
It's just on the other side of the fence.
That's just as bad. They literally are using the ashes of dead Jewish people as fertilizer for their garden. Yeah. So I know that's a feel-good film of the year, but that is my number 8 zone of interest. I think that this is like a borderline masterpiece.
So not quite as good as Maestro, huh?
Yeah.
Not quite.
Huh, Ernie?
Not quite. Not quite.
I still have 80 for Brady.
I mean, we go to the bright colors of my number 8, Barbie.
Hey, we gotta wait. Hey, man, we gotta wait, man.
Amen.
My number 7 is a movie that I gave 5 stars when we saw it. Totally forgot about that.
And it's at number 7?
Kind of because I forgot about that, I guess.
Okay.
However, it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait on that. You're gonna
have to.
That's the
Man,
thing.
we're reaching a point in here where I knew that this year was gonna have a lot. There's some I think that there's a clear crop of movies towards the top here. Is that why I think this is gonna be a fantastic Oscar year? But that's a different pod.
Number 7, Hunter.
My number 7, I think we're gonna have to save as well, at least for a little bit. My number 7 is The Holdovers.
Yep.
Okay, it didn't make my list. It's my number 11.
Okay.
I struggle with this, cutting.
You
this
hate teachers. You think teachers should get paid less.
I hate Boston. It's too cold.
That's fair.
Yeah, this one hurt to cut. We'll get to it. My number 7 is Oppenheimer.
Wait a little.
Oppenhizzle.
Wait a little.
Number 6.
Oh boy. My number 6 is Killers of the Flower Moon.
Wow. You're gonna have to wait.
Wait a minute.
All right, Hunter, number 6.
I think I might be able to talk about this now. My number 6. My number 6 is Wes Anderson's Asteroid City.
Hey, man. It's also my number 6.
Hey.
Didn't catch this one. Should have caught
Here's
it.
the thing about this. We will perpetually underrate Wes Anderson until he dies, is I think where we're at with Wes Anderson.
This movie was kind of, it was not far, but it was definitely well outside the top 10. It just kept falling down over the
and then you rewatched it, and it's like, oh shit, is this movie perfect? Is this like a top tier Wes Anderson movie?
It is
best since Grand Budapest.
I think it's better than Grand Budapest Hotel.
Whoa.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but yeah. I mean, how many has he done? He did Isle of Dogs and French Dispatch. That's it, right?
Was there another one in there?
I want to say there's more, but
I think that's it.
I think since Grand Budapest, you might be.
You're right, because French Dispatch is just
Fantastic
like 5 different movies.
Yeah.
So you forget.
It's definitely better than both of those. And he also had a bunch of shorts that dropped on Netflix that I still haven't gotten around to. So he's had a great year, and I think that this movie was very divisive. I think his movies usually aren't like widely beloved. They kind of just bring the crowd that they bring in, and that's
the
it.
thing is, he's a very interesting, like anachronistic, like type of artist, because I'm trying to think of a good comparison for something that is weird but predictable, like weird in consistently the same way every time.
Right. Yeah. Because it's not like a David Lynch thing where it's like, I don't know where he's going to take me on this journey. You know what you're getting with a Wes Anderson movie. And that way, it's not like somebody's just like, you know what? I was out on Wes, but now he finally got me back in with Asteroid City, his 10th film. Like, you're either kind of in or out.
But I think part of the point of this movie is, I think there's so many thematic ideas stacked into this movie. I don't think it's just about one thing. But one of the main things that I connected with is I think he's trying to tell people that he has a very particular way of expressing himself through his films. And you have to be willing to accept that. Mm-hmm. That you have to open yourself up. You have to create some kind of vulnerability in yourself to be able to take in what he has to give you. I think that's what you can't wake up if you don't fall asleep.
Can't wake up if you don't fall asleep.
That's kind of one of the thesis of this movie, is that if you are truly going to experience something new, if you are going to give yourself over to the artistic vision of an artist, you have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to meet that artist on their turf in some way. I think that's kind of the point of this movie. I also think this movie is about isolation and connection and people who struggle to find people like them.
It's a movie about grief.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, a movie about grief and just trying to find, belonging, a sense of self. There's so many ideas packed into this thing.
It's also a silly sci-fi movie.
That's the thing about this movie. I think this can be said for a lot of Wes Anderson movies, is that they truly have like every single movie he makes has like an iceberg like understanding of them, where like dumb guys could watch something like Fantastic Mr. Fox and be like, oh man, that looked cool, and I like George Clooney Fox. He's a really cool guy. Or like you can kind of read under the layers of everything that he is trying to get across in all these various themes.
Yeah, and you can be like, the smart version is like, that other Fox is actually Jason Schwartzman.
And the other one's Meryl.
That's like the genius brain thing.
Jason
Schwartzman voice?
Incredible.
He is so good. And it's one of those things where acting performances never get recognized in Wes Anderson movies because they are all such ensemble pieces. But Jason Schwartzman and ScarJo are two of my favorite performances of the year. I think that both of them are absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the best uses of Scarlett Johansson I've seen in a movie in years. That's truly knowing like what makes her special as an actress. This movie, you brought up that it's about filmmaking and that's about kind of the artistry. I think that this is also just really about life. Without like getting too into like all of the themes of like, what is the play about? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And it's just
what's the point of everything?
It's just like, you just read the next line and just kind of figure it out along the way. This does, it's a Wes Anderson movie, so it's still going to have the
dialogue.
It's going to have the dollhouse effect, not just from the way that it looks, but also from the way that the story is constructed. So this is let me know if I get this wrong at any point. It is a movie about a play about.
I guess it's the film adaptation of a play,
Yeah.
but it's also the play.
But as told through like a reinterpretation almost.
It's
of
like
trying to read what the characters
It's like a
are.
televised.
And also there's like it's like
play.
doing some like Coheed shit where there's like the writer and then there's the actor and they're two separate entities but also happening at the same time. So you get these kind of cutaways. And it's shit like that where I can understand why the layman
just
might
out.
just be just solely out at that point. And especially because the dialogue is happening so much is happening and like snappy and happening right at your face, but also
And that
your
deadpan
eyes,
delivery.
also like it's like the Subway Surfers thing of just like you like want to like look around at everything that's happening on the outside and you're like, wait, sorry, you were talking right now. What just happened there?
Looking at the most gorgeous frame ever.
It's so beautiful. The color palette of this movie, just every single shot here, I'm like fucking freeze frame that shit and throw that shit up.
Looks great on 4K.
It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Really gorgeous rendition. You have the 4K? I don't have a 4K of this. I just have the blue.
On Amazon Prime, it's streaming on 4K.
Wow. Oh, look at that. Wes Anderson weirdly doesn't do a lot of physical 4K releases.
Criterion. It'll be a Criterion.
That's what we'll have to wait for is Criterion. But yeah, no, this is absolutely beautiful. I think that it's kind of perfect for this movie to come out a year after the whole like Dolly AI.
Yes.
Like, oh man, look, accidental Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson is just like symmetrical framing and bright colors. Like
it's something
this movie proves that it's so much more than that.
A computer could never come close to even writing like a fraction of what
it's so rich and layered and
human
and literate.
It's so gorgeous. I like cannot stop thinking about this movie. I like the whole third act of this movie is so beautiful and gorgeous. And the way that it rewards rewatches is really amazing. Like a lot of Wes Anderson movies. It's a lot better in the second rewatch. I started rewatching it for a third time actually. And because like there's lines that call back at the beginning of the movie that call back to the end of the movie that then call back to the beginning of the movie, like kind of recontextualize different things.
Insane cast.
Absolutely
just everyone is in this.
Man.
From Tom Hanks to Margot Robbie.
The Jeffrey Wright monologue that he has is so good. It's so good.
It's unbelievable. It's ass.
Maya Hawke is excellent in this. Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
Our boy. And of course, Jeff Goldblum.
As the
Jeff
little
Goldblum.
green man.
Jeff Goldblum as the little guy.
I always thought like, what would Wes Anderson do with a sci-fi movie? And I never imagined this. It's unlike anything I could have imagined. He just gave us something special.
He's not going to get, I would love to say like, whenever we talk about our winners of the year, I wish that we could put Wes Anderson on there between like Henry Sugar and like all the short films that he has, but it feels like nobody's seeing these things or going to give him any awards for any of these things. So it's just going to go by the wayside. The fact that this isn't going to get a cinematography or like a fucking production design Oscar nomination is going to be such a tragedy years from now. Like, are you kidding me? We're going to award the dollhouseification of something like Barbie, but not something like Asteroid City, which I'm not putting down Barbie. Barbie is an unbelievable production design. But how can we reward one but not reward the other? That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie so much.
I like the production design of fucking Leonard Bernstein's nose.
I'm going to be looking forward to watching
this. If you don't like
this.
that nose, brother, I got news for you.
I'm going to be rewatching this for a long time. Definitely one of my favorite Wes's.
Yeah.
Let's see just real quick where I put it in my rankings. I put it fourth. I think that's pretty solid. I stand by that.
I haven't updated my list. I would put it, I think right now I have Tenenbaums 1, Rushmore 2. This might go at 3.
Yeah, it's worthy.
I've never seen Moonrise Kingdom.
Great movie. All his movies are fucking great, man.
They're all great. All bangers.
He's one of our greats, and you're right. I do think we take him for granted. We underestimate him.
I know. I'm still searching for a good analogy here with him because there's a lot of athletes that are like this where they hit like where they're going to get pretty early. And it's like, well, that's still great. Like, and that guy's doing that every year.
Yeah.
It's like KD
And
or
he does
something.
the
You know what I
same
mean?
thing.
Yeah.
It's not quite KD, but
No,
Someone-
because he
someone
hasn't had
who-
like a hated phase where people are like, fuck Wes Anderson.
Someone
While he's
who
at the top of his game.
sharpens the tip more and more, who just does that one thing
You
and
know,
gets really good at that one thing.
I'm trying to think of like what is a good sports now. It's almost like he's almost like a Chris Paul, where it's just consistent. You know exactly what he's going to be whenever he's there, and you either love him or you hate him. But he's just a person who
Consistent.
Yeah,
he's
but
somebody who like other players love and respect the hell out of.
That's a
even
good
if other
one.
people don't really like care for
no,
him.
that is a good one. It's just Chris Paul is the dude who like you could also argue is like the best.
He got close to the apex with Grand Budapest, but still didn't quite get over the hump.
That's
Sorry, I got to workshop this a little
that's. I mean, that
Not
remains.
not enough awards like Chris Paul.
bit. Mhm.
yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Facts.
All right. So Asteroid City is Hunter and I's number 6.
I don't remember if this is passed for both of you. It's passed for you, Hunter. My number 5 is Oppenheimer.
No, let's talk about Oppie.
Right?
Ernie had it at number 7, right? Yeah. So your number 5, Ernest number 7, and my number 9.
So
Wow, this is actually lower than I was expecting to be on either of your lists. I'm actually kind of shocked by
I
this.
had it a little
You
higher.
guys are both out here just fucking jerking Nolan's junk right into your mouth, slobbering it all around.
and you're out here being like, yeah, no, I thought it was cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
Shut
I'm
up.
surprised it's even on your
Just
list.
barely
Hunter.
beat out Trolls band together.
That's what I'm saying. Is
The biggest Nolan
he
hater
loves
in the world.
Oppenheimer, and
No,
he talks about it like he doesn't.
I'm just kidding. It's a bit at this point. Oppenheimer is great, man.
It's awesome.
I rewatched it. Or I should say I started it. I didn't finish it. I'm just like Joe Coy. Kill me.
I watched it 3 times in the theater. It was
Man.
the press screening we went to. Then I saw it at the big fucking point IMAX. And then I saw it on IMAX 70 millimeter film in San Francisco.
That I'm jealous that you got to see it in the 70
Dude,
millimeter.
like
that I'm
I will
very jealous
never forget it. Shout out to Brett and Annette that we went together. Shout out to Lee, who was doing computer work in the lobby the whole time. Amazing.
Lee was just like
3
I saw it
hours?
once. I think I'm good.
I can crank out some emails.
I think I'm good.
Well, she went to the screening with us. But yeah, I mean, those 3 times, like every single time I felt like I got something more out of the movie. Like this is such a dense, rich movie that I think on first viewing feels like you can't quite get your arms around the whole thing.
yeah.
And you really need at least the second. I think the third is a little overkill, but you at least need the second one to really grasp everything that Nolan is trying to do here. This is by far his most ambitious movie. And this is a guy who made 3 Batman movies,
And this-
Interstellar, Inception.
I mean, and this is the guy who made Tenet.
right.
Okay. No, I think that
But
the
no,
thing is,
but for real, that's a fucking complicated, ambitious movie that nobody else would make.
this is by all accounts such a down the middle movie that it is kind of surprising for it to be a Nolan movie. Maybe that's why I think that this is Nolan's best movie, especially after seeing this like 2.5, almost 3 times. Like I think that this is going to go down as his magnum opus, his apex.
He's
that
gonna
he
win
had.
the Oscar, man.
He's gonna win the Oscar. This is gonna win Best Picture. I think I've kind of come to terms with that.
It's gonna be one of the best pictures in a long time.
in a long time. I don't know. It's not like ever or anything like that. Like it's not in the top 10 of all time, but like,
If you
it's-
just look at the 21st century, like when you look
it's
at
high
like
up there. There have been some real fucking stinkers. It's easily the best picture winner since Parasite.
yeah.
Like it's not as good as Parasite, but like it's the best one since then. And I think that this is a movie where the highs are fucking momentous. I think the first like 15 minutes of this movie hit so hard that can you feel the music? That score, Ludwig's score is unbelievable.
King.
It's really, I feel like, especially in our critics group, I kind of had to be like anti-Ludwig for a bit because I was just sitting here waving the Daniel Pemberton and the Robbie Robertson score flags for so long. But God damn, is this score so good. It has this propulsive nature to this movie. Cillian Murphy is unbelievable. I think that my criticisms of the movie are like, I harp on those because Nolan is one of those directors that I feel that I can feel myself being hypercritical towards because he's like so close to being like my favorite fucking director. And he always just makes like one or two choices that I'm just like, Emily Blunt's character just kind of sucks. And like, you just have to learn to accept the warts with something like this. But I mean, the highs of this movie are unlike anything else. The highs of this movie are some of the best.
And yeah, and that's a hard thing to navigate in such like a dude centric movie, like a movie that's just about like a million guys.
So many guys.
The first time we watched it, it was flat out too many guys. That makes it, you need to watch it twice just because you don't know who all the guys are.
Yeah. And it's so
like, wait, that's Einstein?
So I think the reason it's a problem is because Nolan does this even in times where he doesn't have to. He makes the female character just serve as a window into the male character. In this case, it makes more sense than usual because, again, it becomes sort of like a Sophie's choice of like, okay, do I include her and sort of like artificially inflate this arc that doesn't really matter? Or do I exclude her from the movie and have everyone yell at me for that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not her fault that she isn't like incredibly crucial to the story of the atomic bomb.
No, it's not.
He's
her
also
fault.
just bad at writing women.
Yeah, no,
that's
it's
what
not
I'm
her
saying.
fault. The problem is that I think I would have been fine with it, but back the people, there's a like big contingent of people who are like Emily Blunt for best supporting actress.
Yeah,
that's what makes me mad.
Yeah,
Like
that's
this
insane.
This is an abomination.
Well, because
if this
she's
wins
a great
fucking best
actress,
supporting
and she does a good job with the role, but it's not a well-written
yeah, it's
role.
just like, I took the sheets in.
I think that this movie, it's trying to do a lot of really complicated things. And I think that one of the things that it manages to thread the needle is this idea of a man who is obsessed with visions in his head. Mm-hmm. And everything is amounting to these visions being taken out of his head and into the world. And that's why, like, in Letterbox, I love changing the posters. You can do it in Patreon if you pay for Letterbox. I changed the Oppenheimer poster to the shot of him with the goggles looking at the Trinity test, because that is the moment in the movie where everything collides, all the work becomes real. And what happens after the Trinity test? They build the bomb, they put it in a box, and they take it away to drop it. And it's taken away from him. Mm-hmm. All that work, all that buildup is just out of his control. And what this movie does is it tells the story of this man who is so in his own head. And yeah, I think that he does have a certain level of aspirations for recognition in his work, and he has some level of self-awareness of his genius. But at the end of the day, it's a story of a man who just has these obsessions, these visions of a subatomic world, and needs to get them out. And what happens when he does that? The fucking basically the apocalypse or something short of it. Yeah. Right. And that's the energy that this movie is carrying, is like, how can one person's actions, how can one person's work, one person's obsessions lead to one of the most monumental events in human history.
And what you're describing, like, leaves so much to be carried by Cillian, and he does it so much better. Yeah. I had a little bit of hesitation about him being the focal point of the movie. I was like, you saw the cast list before watching, and you were like, well, maybe it's just like a true ensemble.
Well, because he's never been
and it's
the
not,
guy.
Yeah, but it's not. There is a massive ensemble, but he is the sun. Like, we're following him, and all of this like immense like enthusiasm and the layers of depth that he contains, you see on Cillian,
right?
And you see in his eyes in a way that I hadn't seen in his other performances.
In IMAX,
he's usually sort of playing, at least in what I've seen him in, he's playing someone a little more glassy eyed, a little more like stone faced.
Yeah. A true supporting role, and like is really what he's been in his entire career up to this point.
I mean, he's plenty stone face throughout this movie. I think that the way he plays Oppenheimer is a man who,
you don't view him as a womanizer, a debutante.
there is a spark to him, but he is
that's the thing,
largely
though.
very quiet.
Yes, but that's exactly sort of what the doctor called for. And I think that that's something that Nolan also got really right in his script is like Oppenheimer also was chosen to helm the project because he was a personality and was like known as sort of a good communicator of the science.
A politician.
Like, it wasn't just his brain. If it was a guy who was just all brains and no anything else, like we wouldn't be able to watch the movie.
Right.
But like what him and Killian are conveying is someone with personality. Like he had that. It's just personality for a genius scientist.
Yeah.
Like not like, not personality for like a socialite.
Right.
It's funny. I was catching this on like my third rewatch of this movie is that like, and this is something that I don't know if I've like ever really said before while watching a movie, or it's not something that I feel generally, but like typically this type of story that's just like, this is about a great man and it's all about this man and everything else. Sometimes I just kind of roll my eyes at that part and I'm like, all right, but what else is going on here? This is a movie where I think that where it struggles is where we get away from what Nolan does best, which is making a great man movie about like a man just on a goal to do one thing. And he's just got to achieve this one thing,
Which is
and
half
I think
this movie.
That exactly. It's only about half this movie. And I think that there is just a bit of shag, not just the third act with the RDJ stuff, but like with all of the setup for the communist plot line. I think that it's all just like, I get why it's there, like that it adds this whole element of like him taking away from like losing his security access. So then we have to go through like every single point in his life where it's been questioned, his allegiance and all this X, Y, and Z. I get it. But I think that is where you can kind of feel the shag, especially like once they get to Trinity and they start putting marbles in the ball. I'm like, yes,
we're in.
Let me stay here.
We're cooking.
And then it's like, why are we talking to Casey Affleck right now? I do not care about Casey Affleck and what's going on.
I love Casey Affleck.
No, he's good, but I just
That's a great
maybe that was a bad example. But like, it's whenever we are leaving the scenes, it's him and really it's Matt Damon in those scenes.
He's
That's adding
incredible.
so much heart to this movie.
Love Damon.
I think that Damon is such a glue to this movie. And I think that whenever I've been critical before of the third act of this movie, I think it's the lack of Damon that you can really feel because he had so much heart and soul and he's so much of like us in the movie of just being like, this is the most important thing to ever fucking happen. Like that's what you need in a movie like this.
I think you're touching on two things. One is, first of all, Nolan can't help himself. He has to be Nolan. He has to stack multiple timelines on top of each other. We'd be cutting back and forth between Oppenheimer and all these different points in his life because that's what Nolan does. He wants you to draw these conclusions across time. And the other thing is, I think it's very important for us to see that this is not just a story about Oppenheimer. Like that's kind of the big point of this movie. It's called Oppenheimer, but the fact that Louis Strauss is such a key part of this movie, all the black and white sequences, the whole point of that is the idea of white, powerful men dictating the course of human history, mostly just talking in rooms, arguing with each other. That's where these decisions are made. That's where these atrocities happen. All the worst things in the world.
A scientist didn't look at him.
Right.
That's
a petty issue.
I think that is one thing that rules about this movie is like the entire like legacy of a human being and everything just comes down to just like pure pettiness.
Right.
That rocks.
And that's humankind. And that's men. Men rule the world, and men are a lot of times really petty and are unable to let things go and move on and fixate on these stupid things. And when you put someone in a position of power like this, they'll make a decision that has reverberations across everything. So when you're talking about the atom bomb, when you're talking about the H bomb, when you're talking about escalation and a war with the Germans and the Japanese and the Cold War with the Russians, like it's all based on just who these people are in a room talking to each other. What are their relationships like with each other? I think that's one thing that this movie gets right. And sure, it has its shortcomings, and there's a lot of issues that you can have with it that are valid. But I think that the idea of zeroing in on these smaller conversation set pieces. This is such a talky movie, a 3-hour talky movie that made almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
There's something incredibly just poignant and resonant with what impact this story has had on humanity and on the world. So
yeah, that's
Oppenheimer. Okay. Oppenhizzle. Number 500.
Top 5. Okay. We are at a little bit of a break in
the tier.
There's more of a tier jump in my top 4. My number 5, we might have to wait a little bit. My number 5 is Past Lives.
Yeah, gonna have to wait just a bit.
Okay.
My number 5 is I guess we are still gonna have to wait for this. It's Killers of the Flower Moon.
Wait.
Drew.
The Holdovers.
Let's get into it. That's my number 7.
It's my 11.
Absolutely loved it.
Paul Giamatti is just a king.
A pleasure to have in class.
I went to see this on a little date to the Enzian with my wife Lee, and we both
my wife.
Wow, it's very nice.
We both love the film. It's got such a nice, like, wintry aesthetic to it, where it's like it's got this like icy cold center, but it's got a nice warm blanket around it.
It's kind of like an instant Christmas classic in a lot of ways. It's a movie that like I'm gonna return to on
I
holidays.
loved it.
Man,
I
this movie
love the
rules.
Holdovers.
It's so good. It's so good.
I gotta be honest. This is my first Alexander Payne movie I've ever seen.
Oh, you've never seen like Election or
I haven't seen a lot of
Sideways?
his
Well,
movies either.
I just said so you don't need to bring up the specifics
or
of what.
About Schmitz or The Descendants or Downsizing even.
I see downsizing every Christmas.
Yeah, okay.
I love the
That's your
Descendants.
Arbor Day film, your family Arbor Day film.
The Descendants with Kloondog.
It's written by our boy, the Dean, Gay Dean.
He won the Oscar.
Yeah.
I did check out Sideways on DVD from the local library.
Nice.
So that is sitting on the shelf waiting for me to get to.
Shoot me a text when you're firing that bitch up.
Yeah, with PG.
Paul Giamatti is truly one of a kind. It's one of those performances where I couldn't really name another guy who takes the role and makes this movie what it is.
Apparently it was written for him.
Yeah, you feel it. You know what I mean? Like it's just a Paul role. We're dealing with like a 3-headed monster here between him and then Dominic Sessa, who has never acted in a
First role ever.
Unreal.
never been
Unreal.
in front of like a camera before. They scouted this kid out at some prep school. He was a theater kid literally just because he got hurt playing hockey. Like it's a true, and then like he looks like a movie star version of Bob Dylan. Like it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. He's absolutely phenomenal. Perfect for the role. Great. Like all the credit in the world to that casting, department. Like,
and then Devon Joy Randolph,
who
rounding out the trio.
Yeah.
Probably going to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
Looking like at this point.
She plays Mary Lamb. Middle name had a little.
Very balanced trio here, where each one serves a very specific purpose. Like the student is very kind of, I wouldn't say full of life, but definitely more energetic of the three.
No, yeah.
And then Paul is very resigned to his existence. And then Mary is just like kind of grief stricken and trying to hold everything together.
It's just awesome. It's 3 people that have no business being together, but hey, they're holdovers.
Right.
You know what I freaking mean?
And it's the holidays.
And I just couldn't have been happier with this movie. Because it has, it's taking pieces and parts from absolute classics that we all love. It's taking from like Dead Poets. It has that prep school vibe.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's taking from Breakfast Club with the like, oh, we're all stuck here, I guess we'll get along vibe.
Yeah.
Like it has all of that, but I don't think I like it better than Breakfast Club, but I think I actually like this better than Dead Poets, straight up.
You know, I think that this is, I don't know about if I like it more than Dead Poets. I think that that's one of those things that like time will tell for something like this, because Dead Poets is like a movie I've lived with my entire life.
I know. Well, and like I think the biggest difference is that this one doesn't have the crescendo and the big climax that Dead Poets does. It doesn't have the "Oh Captain, My Captain" moment. It has like a very insanely effective, like teary goodbye.
Yeah.
Instead,
I don't know about you guys, but this is one of those movies that as I was watching, I was like, this is really good. And then like as I was watching, I was like, this is great. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And I was like, oh my God, is this a perfect movie? It keeps one-upping itself instead of quality. It makes pretty much like every right choice that you can make as a screenwriter when writing this
exactly
movie. It starts out and you really think it's Dead Poets mixed with Breakfast Club. It's going to be an ensemble piece with all these kids and we're all going to be stuck here together. And then it's just like, actually, no, everybody else gets the break except for us three. We're just stuck here. And then it's like, we're just going to be stuck to this one thing. And minor spoilers, I won't get into anything too much, but like, we're just going to all be stuck here in this one place. And it's like, actually, no, just kidding. We're going to go out on a whole like trip. We're going to go to see Boston and everything else and go have fun. And then it goes to another location based off of Boston, which that whole sequence is like probably like the most affected I have been in a movie all year.
You get to love these people. Yeah. That's all you can ask for from a movie, is just to spend 2 hours with some characters that you learn to love. And that's really all this movie does. Is it's not that complicated. You don't need atom bombs. You don't need Blackberries.
You don't, but also it's hard to pull off something like this where it reminds me of, it's like what I said last week when we did our music episode about Pine Grove, where they find little pockets of like classic Americana where you're like, wow, no one did that one.
Right.
Like no one did quite that one yet.
Right.
And it feels like so cozy and familiar, but it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Like that's so fucking cool to me. The guy who wrote it is a lifer in the TV world, like written a million different TV shows. You know what he wrote 2 episodes of, Ernest?
What?
Traffic Light.
Holy shit. Oh yeah, he looks like he wrote Traffic Light.
2011 I think 1 season long sitcom that Ernie and me both watched.
This is his only feature script.
No, that's what I'm saying. He wrote some Kitchen Confidential with our boy Leonard Bernstein.
Wow, dude.
What?
Coops himself. That's wild.
It's so awesome. Yeah, that he came out with this, which feels like, if anything, you would at least imagine it's an adaptation of a novel.
Yeah.
Like because these, or
like a foreign film.
Because these characters are just so homey and small and understandable. Like it's written like a play. Like it's so like the articulate nature of Paul's character makes so much sense.
He always has to come in with some zinger.
I know,
based in
and it makes sense because he is playing like a really annoying, educated guy.
And we love it.
He's so fucking annoying.
It's so good. Him at the bowling alley is so fucking funny. Like there's
when
so
he's
many
talking to the Santa.
yeah,
and
he's just like, Santa's origin is actually. And like he's in Boston, you're like, oh my God, is he gonna get his fucking ass beat at this bowling alley in Boston?
It just sort of
that's great.
The reason it works as a throwback, in addition to the fact that it just like, you know, is a throwback temporally speaking, is it, I don't know. I like the idea of people learning to get along when they know that they don't even like each other.
Yeah.
They don't like each other, but they get along. Like there's a moment like later in the movie where Dominic Sessa says to Paul, he's like, you know that people don't like you, right? Like they have like it's more of an understanding than it is an affinity. Yeah. They don't like each other, but they really get along.
Well, I'm going to spoil one small detail that really like hit me, is the moment when he realizes that they both take the same antidepressants.
Oh man.
That's such a good moment, because that tells you everything you need to know about what this movie is trying to say about these characters. Is like all 3 of these people are so different, but they're really not. Like,
Yeah.
they're really.
Oh, no.
There's a lot in common.
Yeah,
they're all like kind of broken.
Yeah, they're
in a way,
just,
and
like-
that's why they find each other.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's what separates them, and that's what it makes it a smart move to not make this a full ensemble piece, because you can tell from the get go, there's like 3 dudes that were in that group of boys that was like, I'm gonna hate these guys the entire movie if they're here, and they're like, we're gonna dispel with these people.
It's a great choice.
And these two like male leads both suck. The reason that a Divine Joy Randolph is named Mary Lamb is because she is infallible. Like, she truly is like just a phenomenal person in the movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the cracks in her are that she's suffering.
Yeah.
Like, she gets drunk because she's suffering so hard. Like, she's like Atlas in this movie. Shit just keeps, like, or Job, shit just keeps getting like stacked on top of her.
right.
And it's the result. It's just like a lovely chemistry between the 3 of them. I love every single scene with Paul and just her. The way that they
Watching the Newlyweds together.
Yeah, and Paul's just like, I've never seen the television show. You want to fucking kill him every time he talks. You want to kill him.
But
it's
like,
so good.
it's mixed with that, but also it's just like lines. It's the lines that could be laughs that are then just mean so much more. Like the whole thing of like, I never know which eye to look at. And then whenever at the end of the movie, when you get the thing when he walks out of the room and just says, it's this one. This is the eye to look at. It's like tears, man. I was like, man, this is fucking screenwriting right here.
That
This
was,
is
I know,
movies.
just awesome. Such an 80s line, like, which is where everything comes together, and it's not in a big explosive way. It's just in like a distilled way.
Right. It's all character based.
yeah.
I know. And it also, like, speaking toward the fact that this is pulling from influences, there's so much in Sessa's character and performance. There's so much Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye, even though he's definitely like a good amount older than Holden is in that book. But like, this script takes the structure of Catcher in the Rye.
This was the exact comparison that Guy made whenever we watched this movie, is that there's so much Catcher in the Rye. And
Yeah.
what this
Well, yeah, because just like the like Northeast prep school over a break aesthetic, like that's what Catcher in the Rye is. And then B, a kid who just thinks that he's above everyone else and thinks everyone else is full of shit. And then the arc also follows exactly the same with Paul's character, which is why this elevates so highly for me. It's like structurally it follows something like Catcher in the Rye, which plenty of other things have this structure where like, why they're acting the way they're acting, but you don't know the specifics. But you're like, both of these guys have experienced something horrible, and that's why they're like this. And then at the end, you find out exactly what it is, and that's the final piece in the puzzle. Like it clicks. That for me is like, people talk plenty of shit about Salinger and Catcher in the Rye. That is the lasting influence to me, is that idea. I am an absolute sucker for that. When you know that someone is damaged for a reason, then you find out the reason, and it's like, yes, that's the reason.
Right.
100% that's the reason.
And also just, the whole story, that they're on a track of self-destruction. Like that they're not all of the decisions that they're making to put themselves on this path are their own, right? And they try to blame everybody else. They try to say that, they're just getting screwed over, but they're so smart. Their intellect is so high that there's no possible way, because they're doing it to themselves.
Right.
And I think that that's what this character is like there's a lot you can point to as to external factors as to why they're in this situation. But also it's like at a certain point, like, you're smart. You could put yourself on a certain path if you wanted to, but you'd rather put yourself on this path because you want to be self-destructive.
And again,
you want to just kind of constantly get in your own way. And like, you could do these things recognizing that that's there, but then still choosing to go down this path.
Speaking of Boston, by the way, drawing full influences, what happened to Paul, not necessarily what happened, but like where he is stuck at in life. Good Will Hunting. Anyone? Robin Williams, anyone?
Yeah, there you go.
Guy who's just like educating at such a low level,
right?
You know what I mean?
Man.
When he's capable of so much more.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
I loved all those scenes in Boston.
Are you saying that Boston is where people go when they just want to settle for life?
No, it's where they go when
to find themselves.
They were born and that was their destiny.
Yeah. We were always meant to end up there.
Nice sweatshirt.
Hey, listen, I'm wearing it in honor of the hoodie.
Belichick. Is he
in honor
out?
of himself. Yes, he is.
Oh.
Bittersweet day for me.
Do you think he exists?
something of a holdovers day for me?
Do you think he exists in the world of the
I'm
Holdovers?
gonna get the same antidepressants as 100%.
How old was he?
I
Was he
bet
like 10?
No, here's the thing. I bet Giamatti is like so into Belichick, and like this might have been the news to like break his soul today.
The character,
The character might have killed himself today.
the Paul character.
Yeah. That professor might have died today with the news that he's out.
I loved all the Boston stuff in this movie.
It's great.
I went to that outdoor bookstore. I've been there.
That
and when I saw it on the big screen, Lee and I were like, "Oh my god, we were there!"
Did you also have a lady of the evening come and approach you while you were in the bookstore in like the middle of the day?
Unfortunately, not.
And you were
I
like,
wish.
haha, I don't want any pussy. No, thank you.
Come now, let's go see a cinema.
Do you guys remember when I was sending pictures in the chat of like the Guinness World Book of Records from like 2002?
I do remember. Was that from that outdoor bookstore?
They were selling it there. Yeah. That's
cool.
That's a lot of great picks.
Yeah, no, that whole, like I said, this is a movie that's like constantly one-upping itself, and it's one of those I really haven't seen a movie like this in a long time that feels that way, that it just like every decision where there was like a crossroads where they could have gone like the safe route, and it's like, this is gonna be a solid 7. It's like, this is gonna be like a really enjoyable 8, and it's like, fuck, this is a 9, and it just like kind of keeps going as you're watching it, like in real time.
Yeah, while maintaining such a feel, it has such a firm grip on what it is. The whole
it's not
time.
like I know we're gonna talk about a movie like, it hasn't come up yet. It's gonna come up. A movie like Poor Things, where it's like the ambition of something like this is like so wild.
It's flexing.
And on its surface, there isn't really that anything like overly ambitious about something of the Holdovers. It feels like a safe story, but it's something that is just like pinpoint perfection.
Yeah.
Like they know exactly which lane to go down.
It's important to have movies like this. It's important to have movies that aren't trying to flex, that aren't trying to be these big gargantuan feats, these colossal masterpiece achievements, that are just a simple movie about these lovable characters just trying to get by. Like, we need this. And for it to be done this way. And like you guys are saying, to make these very specific choices in the storytelling, like a scene like the Christmas party where he goes to flirt with the coworker, and there's that shot.
Hurts my soul, man. There's like a few of those in this movie that like are just like crushing as you watch.
Or
them.
even when Dominic Sess's character is flirting with that girl, and she's like, "Oh, are you trying to look down my shirt?" Any other movie, you'd probably get a lot of scenes with that actress. And this movie doesn't do that. They probably shot a lot of stuff, and then they looked at it and they were like, "You know what? This is the only moment that we need to tell this story. And then we can move on." And it doesn't feel like you were cut short of a potential subplot. It just feels like you got just enough to learn more about the characters that we're following.
One thing I want to say, which is it does border on spoilers, so skip ahead like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. The moment where Dominic Sessa says, "I'm going to go see my dad." That's all I want to do, is I just want to go see my dad. I knew like immediately, I was like, his dad's not fucking dead. And like seeing that whole scene play out is like probably the most emotionally affected I've been by a movie this year. Of just like,
he goes to Cuckoo's Nest,
fucking gut. And as you see it in real time, you can just kind of see it in the moment. He's just like, "I think they're putting something in my food." I was like, oh no, this hurts so much. You can just see it, and this is like the thing that completely tore his life apart and put him where he is. And it's not his fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's just something that happened in life that happened to him. And that's why he's stuck in this bad situation. Yeah. It's one of those things where it recontextualizes so much about the movie that you've seen leading up to it, as like, these are all just truly broken people that are stuck in this situation together.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a kind of a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Like,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it absolutely blew me away.
I want to get like wrapped around with it. I want it to like give me a hug.
I really think that this is kind of like an instant holiday classic.
Yeah.
The people, because this movie hit the cock a couple weeks
it's on
ago.
the cock.
And there was like the whole like, I watched this with my family and it was mids thing. Fuck you. Stop being so cynical and just learn to like enjoy things.
Shout out to fucking Paul Giamatti out there. He's on Mark Maron. Incredible episode.
He's on the trail and I love to see it.
On NPR, dude. Like at In-N-Out.
At In-N-Out rules. What do we think? Is it still Killian's or is there a chance for Giamatti? Because it's now too. Giamatti has fully replaced Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper is found dead in a ditch. Maestro is unfortunately, his drink got spiked in the club, and he passed out during the second the second half.
You're gonna be
shout
okay,
and
buddy.
never woke up.
You're gonna be okay.
So it's Giamatti versus Killian. Is there any shot for Paul, for our boy?
There's definitely a shot.
For Big Fat
Paul
Liar
is
himself.
great.
One quick Alexander Payne shout out. So many scene transitions. I don't want to say all of them, but most of them are fades.
Yeah. It's very 70s. I mean,
Yeah,
he
it's just
wants this movie to feel like a Hal Ashby movie.
It's gauzy.
Yes, so much Hal Ashby,
Yeah.
so much like Harold and Maude,
Yeah.
except they don't fuck in this movie.
It's a comedy.
God, I wish they fucked.
God, if only they fucked. There's a Adam Naiman, a writer. I think he meant this as a negative, but he said this movie is like being beaten to death by a Cat Stevens album, and I think that's a positive. For me, I'm like, sign me the fuck up for that.
I love the arm break scene.
Oh man, that's
Great.
so good.
That's a great moment.
It's a great sequence.
And yeah, I think Giamatti is just fucking phenomenal in this. Like I think he's doing incredible work.
Man, I really hope Dominic Sessa keeps acting. I hope that this isn't one of those things where it's just one of those like lightning in a bottle moments where you get this incredible performance and then the guy's just like, oh, I went on to be like an accountant.
Well, I don't think so because it's not like it. I genuinely don't mean to be like mean, but like with someone like Philip Hoffman's son, like that kid doesn't look like an actor.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I'm thinking of like
this kid looks famous,
Right.
Like he looks like someone.
And his performance is great.
Yeah, like you see him and you're like, that's someone. And then on top of that, in this movie, I was like, oh, like genuinely, I was like, oh, they must have pulled some kid from like the Divergent series or something. Like this kid must have been acting for like 10 years. You know what I mean? And no, nothing.
I'm thinking of
Crazy.
like, I mean, just like in the like immediate thing, like think of Gabriel LaBelle last year, like a fucking phenomenal performance. And like he has,
Nothing
I'm pulling up
lined
his IMDb thing. He has one tiny movie called The Snack Shack is the only thing listed that's in production on his IMDb that I don't know a single person involved in this.
This kid has
So-
a future.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Make more New England cinema.
Hey, New England representation. It's gray. It's depressing. It makes for good art.
Hunter
Yeah.
knows because he went there one time.
Listen, my essence is from New England, and Bill Belichick, you'll be a Patriot for life.
Part of this movie was shot in Lee's like hometown. I think they must have just done some interiors at one of the high schools, but we were really excited about it. And then we got an ad for a show on Paramount Plus, or actually I think it might be a movie on Paramount Plus that's actually set and filmed in that town. That's like a fishing story. So shout out to New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Oh shit! Wow, damn, New Bedford, glowing up.
Yeah.
Some ice fishing.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right. So the Holdovers is Drew's 4 and Hunter's 7. At one point it was on my list and I had to.
No, you had to make room for Maestro. No, I understand. Okay, cool.
Very nice.
Maestro is definitely old.
It's my number 11.
Okay.
It's right up there. All right. Hunter, number 4.
My number 4, I mentioned before, top 4 all have 5 stars on Letterboxd for me. These are like a true break has happened here, and on any given day, any of these top 4 could be my number 1. Today, my number 4, which feels so low, it's Across the Spider-Verse.
You're gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait. My number 4. Let's get into it. Past Lives.
Nice. My number 5
Just he had it at 8.
Really could have been it could have been anywhere.
Just a gorgeous romance, just like what we were saying with the Holdovers, how it's like this comedic drama that's so simple. Like, we don't get enough of these romantic dramas. Not a rom-com, right? Like, not a zany rom-com, like really just a truly like heartfelt romance is what this is. And it feels very modern. It's a story of a
super
couple
modern
that knew each other as children in Korea, and then the woman grows up in Canada, ends up in the United States. They develop an online relationship and then rekindle their connection in person 20 years later in New York City.
Yeah.
And it's has
what,
so
8
much
years and then or 12 years and then 8 years, or 8
something
years and
like
12
that.
years,
Yeah,
something like that.
it's like they're like little kids, and then they're like
12 and 12. It's 24 years total.
Yeah. And it's really a story. I think it owes a lot to Linklater's Before trilogy. There's a lot of extended sequences of these people just walking and talking and rekindling this love that's been dormant for many, many years. I thought a lot about Before Sunset, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Best screenplay ever written.
That longing, that wanting to feel something that you haven't felt in a long time with that person is captured super well in that movie. And I think this movie does it in a very unique way where obviously, you have the immigrant portion, which isn't a thing in the Before movies. And also it feels a lot more, I don't know. Before Sunset has like this sense of urgency, because it's like, oh, he's only in town for this one
for
day.
90 minutes, and we have to have the entire movie take place in this 90 minutes.
This one doesn't quite have that, and I feel like it operates on its own tempo. It feels very unique. There's no movie like this year.
I think it's funny, the comparisons to Before Sunset, because I think in some ways this is almost like the inverse of Before Sunset, because so much of this is about what isn't said.
Right.
Where Before Sunset it's my favorite screenplay ever. Like, I have a copy of the screenplay because I think it's like so pitch perfect. And this, so much of the movie like kind of lays in the silence, which goes to Celine Song's direction. She wrote and directed the thing too, but
debut,
not overwriting it, just letting it, just trusting your actors. Obviously, Greta Lee is getting the most acclaim, and man, I really hope that she does get a nomination out of this because she is absolutely unreal. But really, Teo Yu, who plays the boy crush turned into adult or teenage 20-year-olds ish crush with each other, and then kind of coming back and seeing their relationship together. And then John Magaro, whenever he's introduced into a fold, our fucking boy, first cowhide out here.
He's very good in this movie.
He is excellent in this movie and like perfectly deployed for like what you want. I kind of empathize deeply with John Magaro's character, seeing him in this, because I was like, man, I definitely would confront the situation the exact same way he's doing and just hope for the best.
I aspire to be John Magaro. Wait, I want to read
learn how to greet your wife's childhood friend in his native language.
Read my Letterboxd review from when I saw this movie. And what was this, a summer release?
Yeah, like I think I saw it in like April or May or something like that.
I said, sometimes the best wife guys have zero riz.
I loved that.
Honestly, it's so like human, his role in this movie. And Teo Yu, there's I think it was a deleted scene in this movie where like he grabs her, he like holds her hand while they're like sitting down outside of the carousel, and they cut that scene. They cut that sequence. Yeah. And
I don't think they touch it all in the.
I think it's such a smart move not to have that, because so much of his performance is like, he was in the military. He's so reserved.
Very Korean.
He is so, like they say in the movie, he is so Korean.
Yeah.
Like he's so he can't unpack it.
Yeah, this movie for what it is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
That's why it was weird putting it low. Like I could have put it in my top 5 very easily, because for what it is, it's absolutely perfect. What you said about the silence of the movie is absolutely true. Like this has probably of anything in my top 10, it has the least words in the script.
It's a lot of looks.
It's so much longing.
Every shot is a 10 out of 10. Every shot of wallpaper.
It makes New York look new. Like New York has been photographed on film countless times, and they found a new way to photograph
the closest comp that I had, because New York is, some people might say New York is like a character in the story. It kind of reminded me of Francis Ha in a way, where it's just somebody trying to like figure out their life, and New York is just the backdrop of, wow, this is all going to take place here. But it feels so quintessential to what you are seeing while it's happening.
It's a phenomenal fucking movie. It does something that, like, the only thing I could compare it to, like I said this after I watched it to my girlfriend. I was like, it's like a magician, how the coolest thing magicians do is they show you, like, they tell you what they're about to do and then they do it.
Yeah.
The movie starts showing you, like, when you see
the
that
first shot. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to listen to like whoever is, in the background, like guessing what the dynamic is between these three people. You're watching it and you're like, okay, she's into this guy. This guy over here is like typecasting of cuck. Sorry, John Magaro. Like, he really is. You know what I mean? Like,
my boy.
The way he's just sipping on his drink.
Yeah, you don't have to guess. And so then from that point, like, the entire movie, you're just waiting for it to get to that scene.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
when it does,
that's the
buddy.
thing.
Oh, because it's so much of the movie is guessing who these people are to each other, and then you finally kind of figure it out, but still, there's so much gray in between that still.
If anything, that's why I had it a little lower on my list than you guys, is because, like, just based on the vibe of the movie, pretty quickly I was like, you meet them and you're like, okay, so that's those two, and then once she meets Magaro, you're like, okay, so they're gonna all be together. She's gonna be really reconnecting with this guy, and he's not gonna be feeling awesome about it. However, because this is a good movie, it's not gonna end with these two running off together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's too movie.
And so, like, there is an amount of like I know where we're going.
But the Magaro character has a moment where he speaks that into the text of the movie, where he says, I am the white husband that
I'm
is
the cuck.
is keeping
I'm a little
you
beta boy
from your one true
He's
love.
like, I'm the cuck. I mean, have you heard my voice? He has the worst voice of all time.
I love our boy.
Nice.
Our boy Magaro's out here. I think that the thing about this movie is, you're right. If you like look at it in that way, then it is very cut and dry. The thing is that
it's not.
You live moment to moment in this movie with the characters. So I didn't really think I guess it's not like I don't care where they end up, but it's just like I'm just experiencing life through these, like, whether it's a weekend, whether it's like, I don't know, like a month of Zoom calls with each other or something like that. I'm just experiencing these moments of life together with these humans, and that's what makes it special.
That's where the movie succeeds, like, at its best, is like the relationship dynamics in this movie are absolutely phenomenal. All two, like, both relationships that are depicted.
I think it's perfect.
It's crazy. Like, if you've ever tried to do something long distance for like a little bit and then just sort of given up, which I have, like,
that feeling is captured.
Exactly it. Where it's like,
it's the best depiction of, like, the falling apart of a long distance relationship
it's
I've
like
ever seen.
it's because that is.
Are we just gonna do this forever?
Is like are we gonna actually get to see each other? B,
because they start planning.
Are we gonna keep doing this logistical nightmare every day?
Right?
Is it worth it? Do we love each other enough for me to wake up at 7 when I really
exactly? Because not only is it
He's
just
in
like
Korea.
you're doing, not only are you doing the long distance thing, which is always a thing of like, well, when are you gonna come to see me? When am I gonna come to see you? Because at the end of the day, we can't fucking have this relationship entirely over Skype, but also we are on like a 12-hour time difference from each other, to add that on top of everything else.
I also wanted to talk about, the title of the movie is Past Lives, and there's this motif, this idea of what's it called?
Inyan.
This idea of you connecting with someone that you have a relationship with in a past life, and that you'll see each other in the next life. And I don't remember exactly like where they land on that whole concept in the movie. It's kind of loosely threaded throughout, but I think the idea is that what are our characters' names? Teo Yu and Greta Lee's characters, that they have a connection that extends beyond this life that they're living right now, whether it's a past life or a future life. Because maybe we can talk about the ending where he says like, "I'll see you then," which is incredible ending.
Nora and Haesung,
where this concept of them not being able to be together in this life. I think that's one of my favorite things about this movie is the idea of us having only one life. And what if what if we don't have just one life, but what if we can, how do I say this? I don't want to say like we can pretend, but we can tap into this belief that we don't just have one life. And how can we
that's
connect to other people?
That's why, reincarnation is a spiritual philosophy, because it is very reassuring in that way. Like it, just like religion is in the way of like, oh, maybe there's something after this. Reincarnation is reassuring in a way of like, these specific people I could maintain.
Not only am I
with.
going to like learn lessons in this life I can take to the next one, but also like I'm going to encounter the same spirits from one life to the next.
But
exactly.
It's so beautiful how her relationship with the John Magaro character is captured, because it's not just like, oh, she's stuck with this fucking guy. Like
they're very happy together. Yeah.
A lesser film would be like, oh, hunky Korean guy got away and you're going to be sad forever because you're stuck with this fucking PlayStation fuckboy who can't be bothered to like learn Korean. He's trying. He's learning.
Honestly, our boys, he's trying.
Well, so that's exactly.
They are good together, and this is their life. This is their one life. Whatever happened in a past life or whatever is going to happen in a future life, they chose each other for this life, and it's a good life.
You know what? You know what bothered me? She is not reassuring at all to him about that.
Yeah, she kind of makes him wonder.
She is so shitty to him.
In the bed scene where they're together, he's just like,
she's like, yeah, I guess I ended up here, so this is my fucking life, I guess. It's like, bitch.
John Magaro is here trying to learn Korean.
But she's being honest.
I know.
That's
I
the
know.
thing.
And they have a very like postmodern relationship where like, I don't know when the last time they fucked was. You know what I mean? Like he's
it's not when he was playing PlayStation.
And again, I don't want to talk shit about John Magaro. I like him. He is just such a typecast loser that it's almost hard to get over.
And we love it. We love to see
honestly,
it bothers me.
Here's the thing. Is John Magaro just a young Scoot? Is he a Scoot in the making? He has the Scoot qualities to him, whether you want to admit it or not.
No, it is
Scoot.
because
Scoot would have tried some like wannabe alpha shit.
That's
with
an
this
older
guy.
Scoot. I don't know. This is like, think about young Scoot. We don't have a big relationship.
Scoot would have tried to like
adolescent
beef himself up and be like, "Oh, you want to be with my?"
Are we sure Scoot would do that though, or is that you projecting onto Scoot? The thing is about this movie, where I have been kind of, this movie has been sitting in like my top 5-ish throughout the course of the year, are these broader ideas. This whole idea of Inyan and 1,000 layers of Inyan in order for somebody to become a life partner. And like all of these like elements that's bringing in are something that I have never seen on film this way. I've never seen a movie that is about reincarnation but isn't like doing like a fucking Cloud Atlas thing where it's just
drama,
like
yeah.
trying to be like so much more abstract.
No, it's
and
almost
ethereal. It's so grounded.
It's like an ultra like grounded, simplified everything everywhere almost. Yeah, because
we were just
that movie
never
has
left
very similar themes where it's just like, what if I had a different thing going on? And it works so well. I think Greta Lee, I think, is a phenom. B,
superstar.
Teo Yu is not going to get enough credit because he's playing sort of a simpleton, and B, he is he's not like a Korean American actor. He's a Korean actor.
Yeah. But he carries so much of the acting, like in his face.
That's the thing, is playing a simple person is really hard. And he, in the key moments when he needs to show like a true emotion, like he makes me want to cry so hard.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And he does a really good job at carrying the boy inside the man. Like that's this whole character, right?
Yeah.
This is a man who has traveled to New York to meet someone from his youth. So it's bringing up a lot of emotions inside of him, and it's making him in some ways revert back to his boy self. And he carries that across in his performance. Like, you look at him and you see a very well put together, beefy, hunky man, and yet there's a little boy in there.
Yeah.
And that's in that performance.
And there's this, as Greta Lee says in the movie, there's this like very Korean ideology that he has in his head of like, well, yeah, but I don't have enough income. And so like, I'm just average, I'm just an average guy, when he is fine as hell. Like, bro's proportions.
Bro could get it.
Absolutely killing it. His fits horrible. Everything he wears when he's in New York.
It is make it so funny because he's like actually in real life jacked, and like he's just wearing
he's,
like the most
slouching a little
ill-fitting
bit.
outfits and the worst posture you've ever seen.
He's
in your
wearing
life.
like Old Navy chinos and like Cole Haans. Anyway, the reason the movie ends up working is because the entire movie you're being delighted with just a smorgasbord of perfect little shots.
Yeah.
Like just absolute
Moments.
Oh, the color palette of
the way
this movie.
the way Korea
oh my
looks.
God.
Every time we're in Korea, I'm like, oh my God. The way what's her name? Celine Song. She fits some Korean skyline into so many different shots. It's awesome. Like,
Dude,
the location scouting was like, there were two checklists. Like, one, is it cool?
Yeah.
Two, can I see the skyline? Like, it's so gorgeous.
That, but then also, I feel a lot of it just had to be color correction, because there's no way that Korea just constantly looks like Twilight at all times of the day. But like, it all has this like memory like quality to it. And it feels so otherworldly. It feels like whenever you are reminiscing on something and you always like look back at a moment of your childhood and you don't ever remember any of the, like, you can only remember how beautiful it was. Like, you can only remember it in this kind of foggy golden sheen on everything.
Let's talk a little bit about the ending. I hesitate to give too much away.
No, so here's like pre-spoiler, the big takeaway and the reason that the movie ended up working so well for me is because, like I said, I was a little bit frustrated with the casting of Megaro personally, because I was like, because I knew the movie was too good to do him dirty.
Yeah.
And yet he was cast to do dirty. So it was like, you know what I mean? I know where this is going. That said, the way it's executed when we get to the scene that is shown in the beginning, is it almost, I was trying to draw comparisons. Part of it reminds me of Call Me By Your Name when he finally talks to his dad.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And like the whole movie is finally just said.
Yeah.
Like they just say the movie in like 2 minutes and it's like, yes, that's it. That's what we've been watching.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Well, the moment where she goes to the bathroom and leaves the two of them, I felt the same emotion that I felt when the piano is dangling over Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell in Mission Impossible, where you are just on the edge of your seat and you can't breathe.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is about to happen?
It is one of the most tense things that you will see in a movie, and it's just it's the two guys in a room sitting next to each other.
It's crazy. Yeah, and and they can barely communicate with one another. And it's so beautiful.
But they're just vibing. They're just
Megaro he has an understanding that he is not like,
he can't compete.
It's like he does know that he in a really weird way, he does know that he's all right in this situation. I really feel that way because like when Greta and Teo are really just like talking to one another, the only interaction that she has where she like turns back to him, again, the worst reassurance I've ever heard in my life. Literally, they're talking so much, and then she turns back to Megaro and she's like, he's talking about you. And then goes back to talking to, it's like, what the, that would make me kill myself. Like if I were,
Nora, what are you doing?
genuinely,
girl?
if I were him, like really early on, I'd be like, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this. Okay? I'm really sorry.
See, and this is why you could never bag Greta Lee.
This
That's-
movie, this
You gotta
whole,
just be okay with being a beta cuck boy sometimes.
this whole interaction, this whole situation is just a test to see like how secure you are in your relationship.
It
like,
is-
could you handle it?
Exactly. And it ends up, you know, that leading toward her, you know, walking him to his Uber.
God,
It just no matter what,
perfection.
how much you knew it was leading after this, it rips your fucking guts out. The way this the shot, there's so many great dynamic shots just going.
And again, the silence.
Yeah, going down the cityscape, like great, you know, you hear the little background noise of a city, but it's just quiet and cold. You can feel the cold. And
Feels
you're
very,
on the edge.
feels very Lower
The
East
way
Side.
and
You're on the edge of your seat.
And
like, what is going
and
to
it's
happen?
well, yeah, and it's probably what, like 15, 20 seconds of them
Silence.
maybe 2 feet apart, just
Yeah.
looking at each other, and both take turns just leaning just a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
I was screaming.
It's so well done.
It's perfectly.
It's insane
It's phenomenal.
what
And
they
then
do.
that same shot just follows her walking back, and then she gets to Megaro and she
And that's
breaks
it.
down.
yeah.
That's perfect filmmaking.
Yeah.
I cannot fathom the fact that this is her first movie.
Incredible.
It's so like we need
Incredible.
to have another director's draft because Celine Song is like, she's gonna be here, man. Like I just give
I
her a
hope
check.
so, man.
I hope that she's just on the Greta Gerwig path of like, just give her whatever she wants to do. Just give her all the money to do.
I mean, we'll see how Past Lives does with awards. Like, if it doesn't get into Best Picture, if she doesn't
think-
get into Screenplay,
I think
like,
it's getting a Best Picture nomination.
it has to
because it's 10 it's a lock for at least being 10 nominees.
Yeah.
How the fuck you could come up with 10 movies that are better than this, that are more like revered from both directors and especially this is like an actor's movie.
Right.
Like I could see SAG, I could see Greta Lee.
Well, have you
They're
seen a
pretty
movie
good
called The Color Purple? No.
Be careful. Hunter.
What are you trying to say
Hunter,
here?
watch.
Ernest, what are you trying to say here?
That's
I'm
what,
just saying.
Drew,
So
hey Drew, have you seen The Color Purple?
yeah, like it's over there. That's that bottle of
You
paint.
can't say that.
So yeah, that's what's great about the backlash. Obviously, everyone knows at this point it's been #1 trending topic on Twitter for weeks is Ernest and the Color Purple, and then it's Ernest the Color Purple, and then like
Barack Obama loves
Yeah.
The Color Purple. It was always on his list. He always meant to pick it.
Oh, oopsie, forgot that one.
Meanwhile, we haven't seen it. We didn't even watch it.
Listen, here's the thing. You can't be part of the controversy if you don't engage with it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no backlash for me and Hunter.
Wow, it's very nice.
Nice.
That is part 1
He remembered where it was on
Oh,
I
got lucky.
Which button?
of our top 10 favorite movies, best films of 2023. We'll call part 1 there. Stick around for part 2. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.